Let's call this meeting to order. Just a reminder, if anybody wants to speak on any of the agenda items, you fill out a blue card with the clerk, and we'll call you up at the time the item comes before the commission. If you want to speak on anything other than what's on the agenda, you also fill out a blue card, and when item 3 comes up, it's public comments. You'll have a chance to speak. There will be no comments or discussions on your statements, but you have a chance to speak before the commission on anything that's in our authority. Okay, so let's go on to roll call, please.
Commissioner Charleston?
Here.
Commissioner Hovey?
Here.
Commissioner Laney?
Present.
Vice Chair Lee?
Here.
Chair Oblea?
Here.
Thank you.
Please stand, everybody, and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready to begin? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Public comments? Do we have any cards for public comments?
No, sir, we haven't received any public comments.
Okay, then let's move on to item 4. Do we have any additions or deletions to the agenda today?
No, sir, we don't.
Okay. That leaves us with, I believe, the next item would be the consent calendar. Item 5, consent calendar. Do we have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Actually, before the roll call, I would recommend that one of our members abstain from the approval of the minutes.
Yeah, I'm sure he's aware of that. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Charleston? Commissioner Hovey?
Yes. Approve.
Commissioner Laney?
Aye.
Vice Chair Lee?
Aye.
Chair Oblea?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Item 6, presentation. Do we have a presentation?
Mr. Chair, yes, we do. I want to thank the Orange County Beekeeping Association. Liz will come and introduce herself, but this is actually a preparation for a later agenda item. We wanted to put her early on so she can present and then go back home to her bees. But she very kindly came out a few weeks ago, spent a lot of time with us educating us about bees, and it was so interesting we thought we'd have her come and give you the same presentation to give you a background into the wonderful world of beekeeping. So Liz, thank you very much.
Hi,
Thank
good
you. That's
evening,
very
everyone. You guys are in for it now. We just got our bee packages in today in the Orange County area. I'll make it up later. Again, my name is Liz Savage. I am the president of the Orange County Beekeepers Association. We have our meetings down at the OC Fair, the first Tuesday of every month. We have members from all the different counties, LA, Orange County, Riverside. We even have members here from Eastvale that come all the way out to the fairgrounds to attend our meetings. This presentation, I just finished it last night, trying to figure out what do I need to put in it, what not to put in it, what's going to overwhelm you. So I'll skip through it pretty fast, except for the stuff that pertains to the actual beehive. Our club was actually started in the early 1970s because of backyard beekeepers wanted some type of forum so that they could keep bees. Most of the regulations that were all put in the cities anywhere from the 2000s back are basically done without the knowledge of beekeeping, what's involved, how it's done, how it's dealt with, commercial beekeeping, backyard beekeeping. So, where am I supposed to? Wrong one. Anyway, I put together just some quick facts. these are our objectives, and these you guys are on our website as well. And my main goal as president of the organization is to teach and educate everyone else. Doesn't matter whether you're a 3-year-old coming through Discovery Days at OC Fair or a 70-year-old coming through our booth at the Orange County Fair. So our goal is to educate and get everybody aware of, as possible, about the plight of the bees, the collapse, how to maintain, how to take care of, how to protect. Facts, these are just some facts that I listed on there. There's some pretty good ones. I didn't know if anybody knew that bees have been around for 4,500 years. They go all the way back to the Stone Age. This is a picture that was drawn showing a person on the side of a cliff going in a cave to get bees. So this is an 8,000-year-old rock climbing painting depicting that. This is the hieroglyphics from the tombs in Egypt, where it basically tells the story of beekeeping, how they took care of the bees, how they harvested the honey. Honey was like gold to them. It was very valuable. This is another picture. This is a Stone Age cave painting. It's basically the same thing as the other, only this is the actual painting itself found in Valencia, Spain. Why we need bees? Pollination. Everybody eats food, fruits, veggies. You like your apple pie, you like your apple fritters, you like your orange juice, your apple juice. All of that comes from the bees being able to pollinate. If we do not have the bees, we do not have these foods. The importance of bees for pollination. Bees don't pollinate on purpose. That's not what they do. They don't go pollinate because that's what they have to do. They are pollinating because they collect the pollen, they eat it. And they also go down into the flowers and they collect the nectar. So by the bees pollinating, what they do is the actual male pollen parts of the flower stick to the female bee, and when she goes to the next flower, it gets dropped into the next flower and mixes with that female pollen. So it's kind of, having them rebirth, kind of. Why do pollinators need plants? Well, again, the bees use the pollen for food. That's their protein. And the nectar that they get from the bottom of the flowers, that is their carbohydrate. In this picture, you can see both the bees on both pictures, both on the top of the flowers. Bees are attracted to specific plants. They are attracted by bright colors and they are attracted by scents. We've had a few issues where we've had people who don't want the bees in their yard because they're in their flowers, they're in their dandelions, they're getting to their sunflower seeds, and it's like, well, without the bees, you wouldn't have all these flowers, you wouldn't have these fruits, you wouldn't have the strawberries or the apples or the oranges. So that's where the education comes in. On the picture on the left, you can see this little girl here. Her back legs are packed with pollen. That's where they pack them. If it doesn't stick to their fur, well, I wouldn't even call it fur, but stick to the bee itself, she packs it, literally packs it on her hind legs. This is a list of crops pollinated by bees, and this is just a brief list. If you like avocados, if you wear cotton clothes, turnips, tomatoes, grapes, apples, oranges, blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, alfalfa. If we did not have alfalfa, we would not have livestock, because the livestock eat alfalfa. We wouldn't have any meats. That's where it goes to get to where, we need the bees to pollinate all the food. This is what your stores would look like without the fruits and the veggies that the bees pollinate. They pollinate 71 of 100 crops that provide, 80-90% of our world's food. No almonds. Almond crops up in California wouldn't be around. This is what your dairy section would look like. Remember, alfalfa feeds your beef, feeds your dairy cattle, which is where you get your milk, your cottage cheese, your whipped cream, your cheeses, buttermilk, all that fun stuff. When you don't have enough bees in the area for any of the crops, and I'm talking about backyard gardeners, you know, people who grow the dwarf orange trees, things like that. This is what your fruit is going to look like. The pear on the left is from a pear tree that was not pollinated sufficiently with bees. This type of fruit is what the stores throw away, don't even take. It doesn't even get to the store most of the time. So you can see the difference between the different pieces of fruit there. A watermelon, talking about a watermelon that has seeds. For every seed that is in that watermelon, it has taken that many bees to pollinate that crop, that particular plant. So when you see these fruits and things out there that are kind of weird looking, they haven't been pollinated properly. This is just a map of the pollinators in each state, what they pollinate in that particular state. Look at California, look at Florida, Washington and Oregon. You can see how many of the crops we have alone here in California. And this is not pollinated just by bees that are put in the crops. This is by bees that are in the neighborhood, backyard bees, even the commercial bees as well that don't get moved. This shows the commercial beekeepers' pollination. They start here in California with the almond crops at the beginning of the year when the almonds start blooming. And I don't know if any of you have heard of all the bee thefts and things like that. If you've ever seen those commercial trucks with all those bees stacked on them, they go nationwide. I mean, they may start here in California and end up in Florida or all the way back around into Texas and then back in California again. They're on a vicious circle, just never ending, pollinating all the crops. Our colonies, we are losing our colonies drastically. That's why the beekeeping is so important with backyard beekeepers and why we go out and why I do this to an altogether different county. I mean, I'm Riverside. To me, it doesn't matter. Riverside, I'm Orange County. I just moved here. It doesn't matter what county you live in. Everybody has bees. Everybody has produce. Everybody has fruit trees. Back in the early 1900s, mid 1900s, you know, it said that we had 5.5 million colonies. And down in 2005, we are down to 2.5 million. So we've lost more than half of our bees in that short period of time. Colony collapse disorder, which really scientists don't know what it is caused by yet. Us as beekeepers, a lot of it is insecticides, but scientists say that it includes global warming, habitat loss, parasites, and the insecticides. And now I want to touch on the habitat loss. The habitat loss is a huge thing for bees, especially with communities growing, and everybody's definitely afraid of bees. I'm allergic. Everybody's allergic to bees to a certain extent. You get stung, you swell up, you turn red, you have itching. Everybody has that, like a flea bite or mosquito bite. The difference between being allergic and being deathly allergic, anaphylactic shock allergic, is where you can't breathe, you have to go to the hospital. There's a huge difference. So that's where our education is, trying to educate people at the fair and our events, that there's a huge difference. Because the first thing when you talk to somebody and you say, oh, I keep bees in my backyard. Well, I'm allergic. I don't want anything to do with bees. Well, so am I. You know, everybody is. But it's the education part and getting people to understand that there is a difference. On the right side, the honeybee colony mortality, 2015, 2016, that year, we lost 44% of our bee colonies. And that's just of the ones that are reported. Most of your backyard beekeepers are illegal backyard beekeepers. I was for 3 years, you know, before we got it legalized in our city. But it was the right thing to do, and it took us a year to, almost a year and a half to get it legalized. But when it's something that's right and that needs to be done, you fight for it, and that's what we did. This is another graph basically showing the same information. It's from a different site, showing the 2015, 2016 at a 44% collapse, you know, loss of bees. No worries, babe. I'll have your truck back in 30 minutes. This is what some of our backyard beekeepers, I wouldn't say, this is what very few of our backyard beekeepers do when they go out and help their communities. People call up and say, I've got a swarm in my yard. I don't want them killed. But if I call my landlord, he's going to send out an exterminator. I get emails like that all day long, all day long. And we try to help as many as we can, but without, again, the education and people being able to just say, have an exterminator call and do it, that's just really shooting ourselves in the foot because we're not helping the situation at all. There are 3 types of bees in a hive. I brought a hive here for colony. No, let me even use the right terminology. This is a hive box. This is a bee hive box. A colony is what lives in it, the bees. There are 3 types of bees in a colony. The queen, which there's only one. The worker bees and the nurse bees, they're all the girls. And then you have the drones, which are the boys. This basically says what each job is. The boy, the drone, is only specifically for mating. Once mating season is done, the worker bees, the girls, drag them out of the hive and drop them off the edge there. The worker bees, it's cutthroat, So the worker bees are all your girls. They do every job in that hive, and they have different jobs. They are nurse bees, they are worker bees, they are guard bees, they are scouts, they are morticians. They feed and take care of the queen. They also feed and take care of the drones when they're in there. There is only one queen. She can lay anywhere from 2,000 to 2,500 eggs a day. And it takes basically 21 days for a worker bee to hatch. Once those worker bee hatches, they turn into nurse bees. Then they take care of all the babies that are in the hive. This is a 1-box hive. Usually on a beehive, you only have 2 boxes like this stacked for the babies and the brood and the queen and all the workers. Any other boxes stacked on top of that are honey boxes. They're called supers. That's the only thing that goes in them. The bees that are out foraging, getting nectar, they bring it back and they put it in these other little boxes up on top, and that's all honey. So when you're looking at a hive, a colony, and we'll see some in a minute, the bottom 2 boxes are the babies and the bees. The rest are all honey. That's what they make, and that's what we harvest. This is a prime example of your female worker bee. That is her tongue. And it can extend out a little bit further. That is so that she can get her tongue down to the bottom of the flowers and pull out the nectar. And you can see how fuzzy she is. That's for the pollen to stick to her. That's what I'm saying. They don't pollinate on purpose. It's just part of nature with them. You can see the one on the left has the pollen packs on her back leg. She also has pollen scattered throughout her body. The one on the right, she's covered. Oops, sorry. This is where the beeswax come from. The beeswax actually comes from the abdomen of the bee. They have to be a certain age before they can produce that. And that's what makes the honeycomb in their hives. This is a sample of a medium frame. And this is what the bees have produced from nothing, from just an open shell here. They take those little pallets, those plates, and they build all these hexagon cells, one at a time, piece by piece. So it takes them quite a long time to do that. We try to help them and give them a frame that has a plastic foundation that's been coated with wax, so it kind of gives them a head start. And a lot of beekeepers use this, a lot don't, but it just all depends. Everybody's different on what they do. This is a queen bee. Our queen bees are pretty much marked to show that they're from commercial genetics, which means that they're raised for their docile, gentle genetics. So we do not want to raise Africanized bees. We do not want Africanized bees around. They've already been in California since the 1990s, and by having backyard beekeepers, it helps break down their cycle and mellow them out so that we don't have so many of them. If we don't have backyard beekeepers, what ends up happening is all of your feral bees all get mated, all the queens all get mated with Africanized drones. And then all the feral hives you have are all Africanized, which, as you guys know from previous incidents, they are very defensive and they don't like their space invaded. So with queens, we like to use commercial queens and change out our queens every couple of years to commercial queens so that we know what their genetics are. We know where they came from. The queen is longer, more narrow, and you can see all the bees attending her. They're all around her. On the left side shows the pollen that they've collected. When the bees collect the pollen, they bring it back into the beehive, and they put that same plant in that same cell for the most part. That's why you can see all the different colors. So, I mean, there's some really pretty pollen colors when you watch them. On the right side, you can see the different stages of the larva. The eggs on the far right of that picture that looks like a little grain of sand. And then in the middle, you can see the larva as it grows, and it looks like a little worm and pupa. And then when it gets to a certain stage, the nurse bee's covered over with wax until it develops to a full-size bee. How many knew that honey came in so many different colors? I didn't. When I first started this, you see the clover honey in the grocery stores, and you think it's all that tan color. This is honey from all over the place, showing all the different colors based on the nectar that's brought in from the plants and the flowers. Swarms versus feral colonies. Many people and I'm just going straight on, but many people don't know the difference between a swarm and a colony. When they say they have a swarm out in their, on the side of their house, most likely it's a colony building inside their house. So here are several pictures showing examples of different swarms and different open colonies. A colony is anything that has comb. That bottom left picture, the middle one, the one on the far right, where the bees actually build that comb is built with those little wax pellets from their stomach. The mailbox, the fire hydrant, the bench, the tree right there, those are all swarms. Swarms usually only stay around anywhere from a few minutes to maybe a couple of days. They are actually waiting for their scout bees to come back and take them to the next spot because they're looking for a new home. So a lot of people, when they call us for swarms, and I just had one today, by the time the beekeeper got out there to go get it, it was gone. We try. Beekeeping is different for everybody. Every place is different. Doesn't matter if you live next to each other, if you live half a block or a mile. If you ask 10 beekeepers one question, you're going to get 22 different answers, as like with everything else. Everybody does different things at different ways. Doesn't mean anybody's wrong, just means that their way works for them. So when we do our meetings, it's like we like to remind everybody to be respectful of how other people do their business. This is a typical hive beekeeping kit. You have your box, you have your gloves, you have your suit, your hive tool, your smoker. That's the minimal amount of tools that you need for beekeeping. It's not cheap. So just because somebody approves beekeeping or somebody wants to go into beekeeping, when they find out what the cost is, it's not always, something that they do. And if they lose their bees the first couple of months, that's it. They're done. Sell my gear. I'm out of here. It's a very easy thing to do. This was the old-fashioned type of hive. And when they collected the honey out of the skiffs, they ended up just tearing the skiffs apart. So back with this hive, everything is reusable all the time. The bees recycle everything. We recycle everything. This is how much land you need to be a beekeeper. This is an actual beehive. I forgot where it's at, but I know there's lots of places that have them on the rooftops. This is another one on the left. They've got 3 hives sticking out their windows, probably 2 separate apartments or something there. The one on the right is one of my board members. He lives in a mobile home in Cypress. He put up the little white lattice on the top, and he's got the hive facing this way, I believe. So basically the flight path is down the walkway. The one on the left is one of my earlier setups that I have. That's 4 separate colonies. The 2 bottom boxes on the back, on the far left, those are brood boxes. Those are just for baby bees. The one on the top was all honey. The 2 on the right side of that are younger colonies, and I'm feeding them syrup water to help get them started because it takes a lot of energy to build these frames inside. The picture on the right is just the back side of that other one. He has it between the wall and the mobile home, and he's got a plant on each side of it. This was my initial first hive. Looked nice and pretty then. Doesn't look that way now. The one on the left is what I have now. I have one straight line of, I think, 5 or 6 hives right there. It basically takes up, what is that? That's less than 2 feet, so that's 12 feet in length by 2 feet wide, okay? I have them sitting on cinder blocks, and I have them in red cans so that I don't get invaded by ants, because they will destroy. The one on the right is one of my beekeeping rescue companies that I call all the time. I send referrals to. He rehabs all of the bees that he gets. He does not kill any of the removals that he does. He likes to do structural removals, but he does not kill any of the bees. He's got a couple of bee yards where he takes them all back and he rehabs them, and then he sells them to beekeepers or commercial beekeepers. This is an apiary project that we put up in Fullerton High School. They currently have 6 colonies up there. We donated beekeeping equipment. We donated the equipment. The bees are theirs. We go up and work with them about once a month. We started holding classes this year as an organization, and we hold them there at the high school so that we have access to the beehives. These are just other examples of beehives and colonies. So the white one on the far right, the 2 bottom boxes are baby bees, and the bees, and the one on the top is a honey super. And the 2 next to it, the yellow one and the other white ones, those are nuke boxes. Those are basically starting boxes so that the bees are comfortable and cozy until they max out the size of that, and then they'll put them in a 10 frame like this. All of these boxes are 10 frame. This is just an example of what you can do with your hives. People go all out. People decorate them, make little cities out of them. The trailer on the left side is in another country. That's a mobile hive set. They move it from spot to spot as they need it. The one on the right, I want to say that was Madagascar, Malaysia, somewhere where those are all hives on the cliffside. So that very first drawing that I showed you in the very beginning from the Stone Age about the guy going up the side of the cliff or whatever, that's it right there. That's present day. Manipulating your hives. You're going to want to be able to have enough space and have, at least 2 or 3 colonies so that you can manipulate your hives when you need to. If they get to a certain point, especially during the springtime when they multiply and they grow really fast, you have to be able to split them down, give them away, sell them off, whatever you want to do. But you have to be able to manipulate them at all times so that you can control them. You do not want them swarming over your neighbor's backyard that has 4 kids and a trampoline, because everybody's going to freak out, right? Because they don't know. They don't know. The picture on the right is our commercial queens. They come in little cage boxes. They're marked. They have a few other girl bees, attendants, workers in there with them. And that's what we use to change out our queens. These are packaged bees, and this is what we were doing today. We had our load come in last night, so anybody who's starting as a new beekeeper can start off with these commercially raised bees with commercial queens raised for their genetics, and get a good start that way and be able to handle them and learn as they go, because you have a 50-50 chance of that particular colony even surviving or staying. If they get invaded with ants, like mine did the first time, they abscond, they take off, and they leave you an empty box, or or if you're not checking them, they can get wax moths, they can get invaded, just different things. Africanized bees. That is a big point that we encourage any and all beekeepers to change out their queens with commercial queens. It's not a must because not all ferals are bad. There's tons of good ferals out there, but when you do get a colony that's what we call hot or spicy or basically overly defensive, you want to change that queen out so that you don't get those same genetics. It showed up here in the U.S. in 1985. 1990, it was in Texas. It was documented in Orange County in 1999. So we want to stay ahead of the Africanized, and that's why we do a lot of promoting with backyard beekeeping and with the changing of the queens so that we can. Because if we don't have the backyard beekeepers, and believe me, you have them throughout the city, you have them all around you. It's just, according to city ordinances, they're not legal. But if you don't have them, then the Africanized have a better chance of taking over. On the left is a picture of Eastvale. You see how much green is on there. That's, from what I could tell, that is basically a good portion of your city is all green. And you guys are just a hair over 13 square miles for the city. Bees can fly anywhere from I would say they wouldn't go more than 3 miles to forage. So if you have lilies and you have apples and you have oranges and you have something else, they go where that particular bee wants to go. They have no direction. They come back and they tell the other bees where they're getting the good stuff from, and then that's where the other bees go. The bees do not stay in your backyard all day. The only ones that are in your backyard all day are the nurse bees, the queen, and the babies. The foragers leave. All they do all day long is leave and come back, leave and come back, leave and come back, leave and come back. So I think a lot of people are afraid that when you say you have bees, that you've got all these bees all flying around your yard and they're staying there and they're hovering over. That's not what they do. We direct people to make sure that your flight path is blocked somehow. Well, not really blocked, but that you have a wall or something so that when the bees come out from wherever they come out, they've got to come out and go up and then fly. The way my backyard is situated, the picture on the right, I have lattice, 4-foot lattice, doing like a half horseshoe in front of my hives. My hives all fly to the left there, and that takes them directly over my pool and my jacuzzi. But because I have that lattice there, when they come out, it forces them up. So they're nowhere even near my height. Once they get out into that lattice, they're straight up and out. So we encourage people to make sure that their flight path is set up so that when the bees fly out, they got to fly straight up to get out. And it doesn't have to be something high, just as long as it's higher than what they are, because they don't really care. But, I mean, I've been doing this for 4 years. I love it. I like teaching about it. I like educating people, to not have that phobia, that fear. I do have an EpiPen in my house. Everybody should if they keep bees. It's just a smart thing to do. But if there's any questions or anything, anybody can get in touch with me. You can always come to one of our meetings. Let me know. But I'll leave this here if you guys want to look at it. But thank you all very much for your time and your patience on this. And I hope you learned a little bit more than what you knew before. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for her? Any questions for her? Okay. And let's move on. Item 7, public hearings. Let's go to 7.1. conditional use permit amendment for 7-Eleven convenience store. We already,
I need to excuse myself for this one, because I live in too close proximity.
Yes.
To where the 7-Eleven is.
all right. We'll call you when we're done. So, we already made a decision on this. Do we have any new evidence or testimony that we need to hear?
Well, actually, the commission continued this item, so no decision was made, and there is, it looks like a number of people here and comments that people would like to make on this item. So I would recommend that the commission reopen public hearing and receive additional comment on this item.
About how many cards do we have for this?
We have 21.
21. Okay, we're gonna have to put the timer on this one. We're gonna have to be strict with it. Everybody has.
If within the city's bylaws, the city can, or the commission can, based on a vote of the commission here, set a total time for the amount of public comment on a particular item, and in the event of numerous comments, reduce the time allowed per comment. So if the commission wanted to say reduce it to 2 minutes, that would be
40
acceptable,
42 minutes,
assuming everybody goes the full 2
testimony?
minutes.
Okay, so 2 minutes? Okay, let's reopen the public hearing. Public hearing is now
Well, if the
open.
commission does want to reduce it to 2 minutes, I would recommend the commission make a motion and take a vote on that.
Well, I'll move that we reduce the comment time to 2 minutes. Do we have a second?
Second, but I just want to comment that folks that are speaking, you can donate your time to someone else for additional
Yes.
time. So,
But it
Just
still
wanna
will be
make
2
sure.
minutes per person, right?
2 minutes per person. You can donate your time up to a person having a total of 6 minutes under the
Okay.
bylaws.
So we have a first and a second. Roll call.
Commissioner Hovey? Commissioner Laney?
Aye.
Vice Chair Lee?
Aye.
Chair Oblea?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Okay, so,
And, Chair, if I may, and members of the commission, we did have a request from the property owner who wants to, the owner of the 7-Eleven, he wants to be able to speak first. I don't know if there's a protocol for that, but he did make that request, and I wanted to make that to the commission.
okay, but please limit your time though, okay? I don't think we'll hold you to the 2 minutes, but make it kind of quick. Go ahead, come on up. And give us your name again, just for the record.
Well, actually, was there, I didn't know if there was additional comments or anything from the staff on this at this point, or did staff want to do that afterwards?
No, thank you. And Mr. Chair, no, staff really has no additional comments at this time. Just to recap, however, just briefly, the last meeting, at the end of your last meeting in April, you asked us to bring back a resolution that would permit you to deny this application. So that is in front of you tonight. So that's really the only additional staff work that was done. We did compile written comments, we received a petition, that's all in front of you. We also prepared, just for information, based on the petition, the addresses that were on there, where the where the signatories are located in Eastvale, just so you can see where the comments are coming from. But that's the only additional information that we have for you, sir.
Okay, thank you. All right, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Vinod Sagar, and I'm the franchisee of 7-Eleven store at Hamner for 12 years. I have been living in Eastvale for 18 years, as I mentioned last time as well. I have requested to add liquor to my already existing license of beer and wine. Beer is only sold to the people over 21 years of age after checking their ID. Around this area in Eastvale, hard liquor is sold in Ralph's, Target, Bevmo, Smart and Final, where anybody of any age can go, but you can buy liquor only if you are 21 years or older. If upgrade to my license is allowed it will be the same thing, that you can buy liquor only if you're 21 years or older. It is for the convenience of my existing customers. My customers do want me to add liquor to my existing assortment of beer and wine. I want to mention that the liquor is going to be in a cabinet behind the sales counter that will be in control of the cashier, whereas you see liquor stocked up openly in the aisles and shelves of any grocery store you go, but we do sell responsibly. I'm a responsible resident of East Vale and I do love my city. My kids are born here and go to the schools in East Vale. It is my appeal to the Planning Commission to look this upgrade as a convenience to my customers who are our residents as well. People buy beer or liquor to take home and enjoy in the privacy of their home. There are no known incidents that people of Eastville drink openly on the streets and trouble other residents. Thanks.
Thank you. Call your first card.
Naveen?
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Naveen Shavedi. I live in Eastville. About a little over a year, I just moved in from different city. So nearby my house, there's a 7-Eleven by Hamner Avenue, and I go there for shopping and for Slurpee and water, milk every day. So it's more sometimes for the beer and I would like to, Mr. The franchisee of the 7-Eleven, I'm in favor of him so he can have a liquor license. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh.
Shakti?
Everybody, I'm the resident of Eastville, so 7-Eleven is nearby us and it is convenient to sell, buy everything from the store. Sometimes we have the parties or something, so there's a huge rush in big stores, so 7-Eleven is the easiest place to buy the things. So if we get the things like liquor from there too, so it is easy for us. So I am in favor of getting liquor over there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Shivam?
Hi, good evening, everybody. I am the resident of Eastville City, and then I go shop at their 7-Eleven often. I go there pretty much twice a day to get coffee, water, whatever we need. Excuse me. So it's more convenient if you get liquor over there, because as the earlier member said, that it's more easier to get, instead of getting in bigger line when it's like bigger 4th of July or something, every store is busy, and 7-Eleven is 24-hour open, and then it's more convenient. I'm always in the favor of this store. Thank you.
Thank you.
Baguette?
Say that again.
Bagit? Sorry about that.
G. Sorry.
Good evening, everyone. I'm a resident of Eastvale for about 15 years or so, and pretty much every day I'm going to 7-Eleven. And I'm in support of having hard liquor sold there because pretty much we buy wine, we buy liquor, and it's more convenient instead of going to other stores to get liquor. So I highly recommend if we can have liquor in 7-Eleven in Eastvale, be able to sell it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gagan?
Good evening, everyone. I've been an Eastville resident for about 12 years. I live right in the community right behind the 7-Eleven. And I do not oppose 7-Eleven to sell liquor because it is completely for convenience of the existing customers such as us who live very close to the establishment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Naija?
Hi, good evening, everyone.
I'm resident of Eastville from last 12 years, and I live right behind the 7-Eleven. Their customer service is real good, and their cashiers are really responsible. So I would recommend to have them liquor over there because they're responsible. They always see ID before giving liquor to anyone, and also it'll be easier and convenient for everyone to get their liquor on the right time, and they can have their family time with each other. Thank you.
Thank you.
Abhishek?
Hi, good evening, everybody. I've been a resident of Eastville from last 4 years, so it's very convenient. Actually, I was asking the staff if they can keep the hard liquor because it's easy late nights on the weekends, and you should not drink and drive. So it's very close to my house. So it's safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Saran?
Hi, good evening, everybody. I'm in supporting him to sell liquor at the 7-Eleven because it's so convenient. I take my kids all the time, and beer is the thing which we don't drink. We drink hot liquor, so we all need a good place, a very friendly, and I'm in support with them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alka?
Good evening. My name is Alka Rani, and I've been a resident of Eastville from 2006. And I always take my kids after school to get Slurpees and stuff. It's really convenient for them to sell the hard liquor very close to our house, and we always going there for shops and things. They're very, very close and very friendly cashiers. I would really support if they can get a hard liquor license. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lakeshi?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lakshay Jaggi. I've been living in Eastville for about 10 years. I actually support Mr. Vinod Sagar for upgrading his liquor license. I've been going there with my wife and my kids all the time. The service is exceptional, so I don't see why not. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bart?
Hello, everyone. My name is Bart Marino. I've been a resident of this area for 52 years. I'm in support of Benoit here. I know him. I serve on a local board with him, so I know his dedication to this city. And I think if we're going to take a chance on somebody giving them this hard liquor license, it would be probably him, being that he does have a lot at stake besides the license itself, the fact that he is very well known in the city. So he would definitely be the person to do everything right. And I'm also a member of New Day Christian Church. And my concern too is also as more applicants come aboard or come forward as development starts, that possibly if this is approved, and that can be the one full license that's in this area. So as development goes on, the other property, the property that's close to New Day, if someone else comes, later on in the future and asks for this, we're more easily to deny it because, we have a license that's close already. And with the hotel hopefully being built in the near future, I think, that's, I'm sure somebody who's developing that area may want the, a full liquor license. So then we have, presented with that. But if we're able to take a chance on this situation with somebody who is very responsible and has a big stake in the community, that, this would be the person for us to take a chance with. That's all.
Thank you.
Mike McMinn?
My name is Mike McMinn. Good evening, everyone. As a local business person myself, I've known for a while. I've been going to 7-Eleven for several years also, and the name is in itself as a convenience store. It's convenient to have that as an option there, as opposed to going there for one product and having to go to another store for another product. So I have strong support for this, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anu?
Good evening, everyone. I'm like in a big sport of having the liquor license at 7-Eleven on Hamner. We buy everything mostly conveniently from that store, and they have very good customer service, and I'm highly recommend to have them a liquor license. Thank you.
Thank you.
Neetu?
Good evening, residents. My name is Neetu. I live in Eastville for 10 years and highly recommend Vinu Sagar for supporting for liquors. I take my kids for Slurpees and candies and buy Spectra. I'm supporting him. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rema? Or Remu?
My name is Renu Jetli, and I am the resident of Eastville. And we are in Eastville the last 11 years. And we prefer that liquor is convenient to have. Some parties are at home, some parties are any get together. I think liquor is important.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jaggi, and I last 11 years in the Eastville, and only for main benefit for the this 7-11 years for grocery shop, everything. I take all shopping for the 7-11, some party, everything, and all beer, everything. So easy for me, and please good for 7-11 sell the beer. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Winston?
Hi, my name is Winston Chow. We're living in tract number 31386. The same tract as 7-Eleven is located. We are neighbors, and we love our neighbors. We love our neighborhood. We love our neighborhood convenience store. And I got my share of Slurpees and Big Ups, and I love it. And I imagine, and I used to hang out around 7-Eleven when I was a teenager, especially on my way home from school. And I imagine it is not that different these days. This 7-Eleven is very close, in very close proximity to church, schools, and residents, much closer than any other 7-Elevens I know of. And as we were strolling around the neighborhood, in its immediate vicinity, we are already seeing marked increase of trash, empty bottles, empty cups behind the bushes, in the street, and drainage. We're also seeing some unknown parked cars. It is located on the nearest and the safest passageway, Riverboat, formerly blocked Schleitzman, between schools and neighbors east of Hamner. And for the students, it's a natural hangout place for the kids. And in the past month after the last commission meeting, we went door to door to our neighbors or in our neighborhood and asked how people feel about this 7-Eleven having a permit selling hard liquor. Overwhelmingly, our beloved neighbors support the denial of issuing such permit. We have gathered about 80 signatures in the hope that commission holding the position in denying the issuance of such permit. Some neighbors expressed incredulity, thinking denial is already a done deal, since 99-cent store got their beer and wine license denied just a short time ago. A few expressed voter apathy, thinking their opinion signature would not make any impact on decision of planning commission commission's deliberating. However, majority is encouraged to hear the chair, the vice chair, and other
You
on the
need to come to a
commission.
conclusion. Your time is up.
in accord with the neighborhood sentiment moving toward a denial. With 3 recorded incidents of
Excuse
public
me, I'm gonna have to
complaints-
cut you off if you're not gonna conclude.
Okay, I'm here to against the issuing of the license and with a petition of 80 signatures in the immediate neighborhood.
And do you have that petition with you?
I do,
Can you hand it to staff, please?
absolutely.
Okay, you wanna call the next?
Carol?
Hello, my name is Carol Carmona. I have been an Eastville resident since 2004. I'm also a small business owner. I'm very thankful that I'm able to address this commission now. This is a very important issue. As you all know, we go to 7-Eleven for a quick fix: soda, coffee, water, cigarettes. All of these things are consumed right away and while driving. On August 18, 2018, my 2014 Honda Accord was totaled. It was totaled by someone coming out of 7-Eleven parking lot as I was passing by on Riverboat. A soccer dad was driving, and the kids were playing at the sports park. He apologized profusely and said, "We just came out of 7-Eleven for drinks, and I did not see you." He was preoccupied with his drinks and his family and was not paying attention. This is what he told me and admitted it was his fault. The reason I'm telling my story is that the people consume at the 7-Eleven immediately. They do not wait until they get home, and home may be very far away. I guarantee you that the sale of hard liquor, if allowed to go through, will be consumed immediately and while driving. This is a terrible precedent to set for the city of Eastville. If we allow one, we'll have to allow all. These are my concerns for our city and the strip mall. I am worried about the vagrancy. I'm worried about the kids that make a beeline for that strip mall every day after school. I'm worried about the trash in the field already evident at that center. I'm worried about the people jumping the wall and going through the neighborhood. I'm worried about the people who want to buzz while eating their tacos. The traffic coming out of the 7-Eleven parking lot is extremely dangerous, especially for us turning left on Riverboat from Hamner. They block the streets and come flying out, as in my case. If you are in the line to make a left and it's backed up, there's potential for another accident. We lived here when Al's Corner was on the corner. It was torn down because Eastville was not that kind of city. The mission statement includes superior public safety, and the strategic plan has many references to crime prevention. I implore you not to grant the license to 7-Eleven for hard liquor sales.
Thank you.
Carlos?
Good evening, everyone. I oppose the issuing of a permit or license to the 7-Eleven convenience store on Hamner. While the 7-Eleven with a liquor license may be a benefit for some, financial benefit for some, it does not promote the livelihoods of those in the community we are so invested in. My father was an alcoholic. We would drive with him, and he would keep a pint of Seagram 7 under his seat all the time. No matter where we would go, he would stop at a convenience store to refill, to buy a bottle so he can keep going. I'm personally, my story, I know what convenience stores will do to people that have those tendencies. I went in last week to get a six-pack at the 7-Eleven, six-pack of beer, which was great. And that to me was convenient because I was heading out to a party real quick. If I wanted a hard liquor, I would go to a larger store that has more variety. And that's what I do. I mean, that's what I do as a resident, a responsible person of the city. Now, starting last Friday, 7-Eleven is going to be delivering beer and cider products. LA is part of this venture. Its hard liquor sales going to also be delivered next. Part of the Eastville vision statement has that we should maintain the status of the region's safest city. I don't believe selling hard liquor is going to it's gonna keep us on track of maintaining us as the safest, city out there. And has there been an, Eastville Police Department, have they actually, looked into this? Have they issued a report? That's a question that hasn't really been addressed, and I'd like for that to be reviewed. Okay, so I oppose the sale
Okay, you
or
need to
the
conclude
permit. Yep, I oppose it, and I don't want this to be a precedent. It will be a precedent once you allow it. It wasn't allowed back
Okay,
when we
thank you
were
very
in
much.
Riverside County.
Your
So,
time's up.
Thank
Sorry.
you.
Thank you.
Shem?
Hello, good evening, everyone. I'm here to support a liquor license at the 7-Eleven. Like some of my neighbors said that it's gonna cause the trash. No, it's not, because we are law-abiding citizens. We will take whatever we buy, we take it home and consume it lawfully at home, not on the streets. That's one. The other thing is, like my neighbor, he brought it up, that he's gonna keep the liquor behind the cabinet, controlled by the cashier, whereas our future is cashierless at the bigger stores. They're gonna have no cashiers. Anybody can grab anything and walk out and drink illegally. So he's supporting that he has cashiers, and it's gonna be cabinet locked up, and sell it only when somebody adult, 21 and over, pay for it and show the ID and legally buy it. So that's really good. Plus, being at the 7-Eleven, at the other stores, is you have to go through the big lines, and also you can't go up to like certain hours. And most of us who are working families, we come from work late, and we want to have access to enjoyment, like go buy legally and bring it to home. That's all. I'm here for pro liquor license for the 7-Eleven. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mohit?
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Mohit Tapar, and I've been living in the city of Eastville for the last 13 years. I'm here in support of 7-Eleven carrying liquor license. It will be convenience for everyone to, go in and get what you need. As a lot of people said, get your liquor in a bigger box store. Recently, Ralph's installed cashierless self-checkouts. It's easier to pass through those lines with the liquor without anyone checking their ID. So with him keeping liquor in behind the counter and having cashier give the liquor to whoever present ID. So I'm here to support for 7-Eleven to carry liquor license. Thank you.
Thank you.
And the last speaker card for this item is Kanchan.
Hello everyone, my name is Kanchan. Mostly I go to the store every day. So I support to this 7-Eleven. You guys give the license. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That's it?
That was the last card I had.
Okay. Well, without any other testimony, I will close the public hearing. Public hearing is now closed. Do we have any further discussion on the item by our commission? Any questions for staff? That petition is, do we examine the petition, staff? The new petition they just?
Chair, it looks like that was an additional sheet that just was handed to the original petition.
Okay, the other one that the other gentleman had, the petition, did it have 80 signatures on it or whatever it said?
They're verifying that now.
In the meantime, do you have any discussion or any other questions?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, really, really quick count. It's 85 signatures. And just a really quick look here, I see a number of addresses on Thornbury. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's about 10 or 11 signatories who are on Thornbury Lane, which is the street directly behind the 7-Eleven. So unfortunately, we didn't have a chance to do the same analysis we did for the other petition, but it does appear that there's more on this petition close to the location than were on the other petition submitted in favor.
Okay. Okay, in our last meeting, we had, that we continue this item, we did come to a conclusion. We wanted the staff to prepare a resolution to deny. We changed our opinion. Do we want to approve this resolution? Or have we changed our mind? Do I have a motion from anybody? We need to have a motion
I make a motion to approve
to approve or
the denial. Is that correct?
If the staff has prepared draft resolutions, one for approval of the applicant's proposed CUP and one for denial of the proposed CUP. So if the commission is comfortable with the direction that it was going at the previous hearing, then it would be a motion to deny the CUP and adopt the resolution prepared by staff.
Then I make a motion to deny the CUP
and adopt the resolution?
and adopt the resolution.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a first and second. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Hovey,
Aye.
Commissioner Laney,
No.
Vice Chair Lee,
Aye.
Chair Oblea.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-1.
Thank you. Let's go on. Item 7.2, Chick-fil-A restaurant. Do we have a presentation?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we do. Thank you very much.
Before the presentation, we need to get Commissioner Charlson back in.
Okay, yeah, we'll take a 5-minute recess. We call in Commissioner Charlson. Okay, let's reconvene our meeting. Let's go back to item 7.2, Chick-fil-A restaurant. Do we have a presentation? Mr. Norris?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you very much. Yeah, in front of you tonight is an application to build a new Chick-fil-A restaurant in the Goodman Commerce Center. We've had a great time working with the applicant to bring what we think is a beautiful looking Chick-fil-A. We went out and found the best looking one we could find and made it better. So we're pleased with that. And Kanika Kith will give you a complete presentation on that. Kanika?
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the commission. So for the proposed Chick-fil-A restaurant, the applicant is requesting approval from the Planning Commission on these two planning applications. One is a major development review, and that's for the construction of the restaurant, the cover outdoor seating area, and the drive-through. And the second application is for a conditional use permit for the operation of the drive-through lane. Here's a project location showing the location of the Chick-fil-A restaurant in relation to the entire Goodman Commerce Center. And here's a close-up showing that the Chick-fil-A is directly north of the recently approved multi-tenant building that was approved by the commission at the end of last year. And also south of 7-Eleven. I mean, south of In-N-Out, sorry about that. West of Costco. Here's a site plan showing what the project involves. So it involved the construction of the Chick-fil-A, the drive-through lane, and the entire parking lot between the Chick-fil-A and the future retail to the north. That's shown out there in green. Here are two exhibits that show automobile access and pedestrian network. The left exhibit showed the access point that we can enter to the project site for the Goodman Commerce Center. And the exhibit on the right show a network of pedestrian access in the blue line, highlighting that the Chick-fil-A restaurant have access to both sidewalk on Hamner Avenue and the internal roadway for Goodman, and also connect to the multi-tenant building to the south and the future retail building to the north. And keep in mind that these pedestrian network here that run north and south will also connect to the other retail throughout the center. Now to the architectural elevation. As Eric mentioned, we have been working with the applicant on this elevation to design something that's consistent with the rest of the Goodman building and a beautiful Chick-fil-A. So here on the upper left-hand corner is the front of the store. And you can see there, they provide a nice horizontal and vertical articulation with varying roof line and projection of the front entry feature. They also use a nice variety of building material to highlight their entryway to make it more prominent. So their entry tower there is projected upward and outward with a variety of building material of stone, veneer, wood-like siding behind the Chick-fil-A sign, and a metal canopy. The rendering on the lower right-hand corner, that shows the two sides of the building that would be visible from Hamner. But as you can see on the west side of the building, there's a covered outdoor seating area that would also be visible from Hamner. And that corner piece on the west elevation has also been designed to create a nice corner feature. Now here's a view of the back of the building. On the back of the building, you'll mainly see the covered outdoor seating area and the cover area for the drive-through and the ordering menu board. On the lower right-hand corner there, that is the elevation that will be visible from the internal roadway in the Goodman Commerce Center. And that side of the elevation has been designed to provide nice articulation. Overall, staff recommend approval of the proposed building, but staff would like direction from the Planning Commission for screening of the outdoor seating area. Staff requested that the outdoor area have some sort of screening that create a nice buffer between the people dining underneath the covered outdoor seating area and the drive-through lane. So the exhibit on the left shows what the applicant is proposing, and the exhibit on the right is what was done at another Chick-fil-A in Rialto. Staff believes that it can be done similar to the one in Rialto by just simply adding additional horizontal wood plank to what's being proposed to narrow the spacing. But staff will be asking the commission if you would like to move forward with the requested screening, then we'll have to add that condition into what's already presented to the commission this evening. Now we'll talk about the drive-through. So drive-through had always been a concern in Eastville. That's because it's highly used. So for every drive-through facility that is presented to the commission, we ask for a stacking study. The purpose of the stacking study is to demonstrate what the applicant anticipates the peak demand is for this location and design the drive-through to accommodate that peak demand, which is the worst case scenario. Based on the stacking study, this location is estimated to have 17 cars at its most busiest time. But the drive-through lane has been designed to accommodate 23 cars. Here is an exhibit showing the proposed drive-through stacking. No pointer here. So in this exhibit, you can see that the 17 cars goes up to the orange, and all the cars in the green are the extra spacing for additional cars that could accommodate up to 23. If any of the commission had already visited the Chick-fil-A in Rialto, you'll notice that the stacking there is much longer than here. In discussion with the applicant, that's because it was recently opened at the end of January, and that it's located further away than other Chick-fil-A than our Eastville location. So therefore, it's collecting people from a wider area. In addition to their drive-through stacking design, they also have standard procedure that they can implement in case they get really busy. And that include having their staff out there to use a tablet for ordering and also collecting payment, not cash, but only for credit card payment Also have their staff directing traffic and putting up temporary sign or cone to help direct traffic from affecting the adjacent tenant. And also, they also have the option where customer can order online, and if they receive a high demand for online order, they will have a staff member go out there to put out sign for 1 or 5 or however many parking spaces they need to accommodate the pickup at that certain time. And these standard procedures has already been included as a conditions of approval in the packet that's before you. In addition to these standard condition, there is also a condition that required them to provide directional signage and striping to help direct traffic. And also, there is a condition that we place for every drive-through that it comes back to the commission in 1 year for review. So overall, we look at the project, and the proposed project is already evaluated in the EIR for the entire Goodman Commerce Center, so no further environmental review is needed. With that, staff recommend that the Plan Commission approve the project. And as a reminder, staff is looking for direction from the commission for screening of the outdoor seating area. If the commission does not agree with staff recommendation, the commission have these two options. Either continue the project and provide direction to the applicant and staff to make changes, or deny the project. With that, that concludes staff presentation, and staff is available to answer any question from the commission. And the property owner, Goodman, and the applicant, Chick-fil-A, are both here to answer any question from the commission as well. Thank you.
Does applicant or representative from Goodman want to speak before the commission right now, before I open the public hearing? Is that okay?
Yes.
I would just say open the public hearing and have the applicant speak at that.
Okay, as part of the public hearing? Okay. We'll open the public hearing. Public hearing is now open. All right, Ward, go ahead. Nice to see you too.
We'll repeat it. You know, I was actually looking forward to being here tonight and welcoming Chick-fil-A to the city. But unfortunately, I understand that our mayor, Todd Rigby, did that yesterday. So really what I need to talk about tonight is to put you all on notice and make sure you don't screw up. The deal's done. Okay, so you have one choice. No, all kidding aside. We
Did
actually
you spill the beans? Is that what you're saying?
Yep, apparently. I wasn't there, but it got back to me. Town hall meeting. So, no, all kidding aside, we actually have spent a lot of time with staff, worked really hard on the design, and I got to say, it's absolutely gorgeous. We love it. I think it far exceeds the architectural guidelines and everything that we envisioned and put together in the specific plan. And so we're super excited and frankly, like the architecture without the additional enclosures around the trash enclosure. But everybody has an opinion, so leave it at that. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the applicant want to speak?
Good evening, commissioners. Good evening, staff. Great to be here. Thank you for having us. My name is Carlos, consultant for Chick-fil-A. On behalf of Chick-fil-A, helping in the land use entitlement process and the permitting process. Also with us on behalf of Chick-fil-A, I just want to do a quick introduction, is Kevin Curtis with the real estate team and Keith Gilbert on the construction and development side. So here to answer any questions specific to Chick-fil-A, but again, share the same sentiment as Ward. Just excited to be here, genuinely excited to be a part of the community, part of the growth, and wanted to also do a quick big thanks to Eric and Kanika and Gina for all of the help and the time and the collaboration and back and forth to get to this point. I think we did a really, really nice job putting just a nice building together. I think you guys will agree, but happy to be here. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Do you have any cards on this item?
No, sir, we don't.
Okay, with that said, I will close public hearing. Public hearing is now closed. Do we have any comments? All right, commissioners?
So for the major development review and the CUP, is that to be two different votes or?
Yes, Mr. Chair, there are two different resolutions, one for the development review, one for the CUP. So they require separate motions and votes.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve the major development review.
Okay, before we do that, though, let's hear from any other commissioners if they want to make any comments. But
Of
Josh,
course, I have
Commissioner Lee?
questions.
So the only, there's actually two comments. One of them is a comment and a question, kind of. So if you look at the site plan, there's a trash enclosure right in the middle. So. Yeah, you kind of see it from there too. You can see the trash enclosure in front of the building, right?
Mm-hmm.
So is it possible to move that towards the Hamner side? Because what I've kind of been noticing in the Eastvale Marketplace is that they have that giant trash enclosure right in the middle, and it's actually kind of hiding all the pedestrians that are crossing, and it's creating that conflict zone. And that's why I've asked staff to work with the developer there to put those crossings and high visibility crosswalks. So it's more visible, much more safe these days, but still, it's still hiding those pedestrians that are crossing. So it kind of creates that safety issue. So, again, if we can move that over to Hamner, would that be something that's amenable? Is that something that staff would agree to and developer would agree to? I'm not sure.
But where do you see it, go back up to the pedestrian walkway there? Yeah, so where they walk behind it?
So it's towards the main.
So, sorry, Commissioner. The trash enclosure right now is right there along, is that pointer working? Yeah, right there. That's the trash enclosure. So you could probably move that to, at the end of the drive-through lane right there. Go up north.
Yeah, there, in that first drive aisle, it can go, and we can maybe put a canopy over it with, because there's already landscaping there, so that we kind
Right.
of cover it so that it doesn't, you certainly don't want to have that view from Hamner either,
Yeah,
but we can obscure the view with some landscaping.
Yeah, if I may, good point, fair concern. We did look at that, actually. It was very briefly brought up. I'm sorry?
Oh, no, thanks.
Yeah, and I don't know, do we need to open the public hearing
Yeah, I
again?
was just gonna say, let's go ahead and reopen public hearing.
Can you hold off a minute? We'll reopen it in a minute, okay? Go ahead, and do you have any other comments or questions?
The second one is not necessarily related to Chick-fil-A per se, but for future lots. If you kind of see the whole site plan, all the buildings are kind of facing each other, and it's facing the back of each building, right? So, in the past, I've asked to realign some of those buildings to kind of face the Hamner side, so that when you're driving off of Hamner, you're actually seeing the buildings, and rather than seeing all the sea of parking lot that's behind it. So in future, again, we already have In-N-Out there facing north, and then Chick-fil-A facing north, but if we can have other commercial buildings in the future kind of face the Hamner side, that would be great. But that's for future developments, but we'll leave the Chick-fil-A one.
So, just devil's advocate, if they face the street, the parking would be in the rear of the building?
Depending on how the architectural design would look on the building. We kind of did that with the lot that's south of it. It's facing the Hamner side. We switched it over. Remember, we turned the building around a little bit? Yeah.
Is that the one right there?
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, the rear of the building is facing. I see what you're saying. Okay, thank you. Do we have any other comments or questions for staff or the applicant, commissioners? Hobie, Oshoni, anything?
No, my main concern was gonna be the drive-through, because we're always at Chick-fil-A, and the drive-through line is super long. But I counted, and I went through the study that you guys emailed to me, and I still think there's gonna be a line, but I'm happy with that.
Very good.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Commissioner Charleston, you have a comment or question?
Yeah, mine would run kind of in line with Commissioner Hovey. So when you look at the traffic study, it shows that, you know, the peak is usually around 17, we're allowing 23. I thought that was impressive, but the thing that I question city staff on is, we've set this up in the last couple of years where we say we're gonna go back and look at it in a year. Well, the only problem I have is the way we're building some of the drive-throughs, even if we're not happy with it, we don't have a lot of options to change it if we say a year from now it's not working like we want. So if you guys are incredibly busy, because right now we've seen it several times with In-N-Out, to where they've exceeded what they thought they would ever do as far as being busy. I mean, it's around, it wraps around the corner, and it's actually getting in the way of where traffic is supposed to be driving. Now, they're out there with 2 people on tablets trying to rush it through, but that's my only concern, but that's more with staff. If we're gonna come back a year from now and say, hey, what can we do to improve this? Looking at this, did you hear that, Eric?
I'm sorry.
So what I'm concerned about is, like Commissioner Hovey said, we've got certain restaurants in town that are just extremely busy. And when we say we're gonna review this a year from now, what I'm a little worried about is if we came back and said, it's exceeded what our expectations were, let's say 23 is not enough. Maybe peak time, we're getting 30 cars. My question is, a year from now, if we say, hey, we need to change this, what options do we actually have? Because we've said this on several of our latest ones in the last couple of years. We should take a look at it. Now, we've been very fortunate because we took it where average was 8 cars in a queue and gave them 9, and now we're far exceeding that. So I don't have a lot of fear of it. I'm just a little worried and concerned that if it doesn't quite work, you know, what would be an option to try to improve it?
Well, as Kanika mentioned, we did talk with the applicant about the queuing study, and they felt that the numbers in that from their other existing restaurants were more or less indicative of what they're gonna have here. And this has more stacking than they need to accommodate what those other restaurants are seeing. So we don't think there's gonna be a problem. Now, if there is, we'll sit down with the applicant, and it's basically gonna come down to operational changes at that point. How can they make that drive-through operate more efficiently and bring that back to the commission's recommendations? Yeah, and Chad points out that they are overparked, and I think we'd certainly be amenable to, if we needed to, take out some of those parking spaces to the north and extend that drive aisle.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, and the other thing I would just mention is this parking lot is really, this half of it is only Chick-fil-A's. So it's not like, say, in the Eastville Marketplace where, Miguel's Jr. is messing up traffic for Tenor Antique House. They're messing up their own parking lot if they do. So not that that's not a concern, but it's their own parking that they're creating an inconvenience for.
Okay. My last comment was, I think staff did a great job on this project. As I looked through it, the thing that I would say is, if I looked at the Rialto outside seating arrangement, I don't necessarily like that. I don't like that closed-in feeling at all. I don't care if I'm looking at cars or traffic on Hamner or parking lot action. If you go to a lot of the other restaurants, it's very open, it's outside. You're seeing a lot of stuff. If you go to the In-N-Out Burger in Norco, you're seeing who's walking in and out of the bowling alley. I'm okay with that. I really, you're going out there to relax and look. So the closed-in one, I just don't like how it just seems claustrophobic to me, and I want to be able to see other people walking up, walking away. I think you guys did a great job with this.
Okay, I have a few comments also. The slats, I could see putting them a few more up there to make it a little closer, not all the way up like it is. That is kind of closed in, just so that that's the drive-through lane that they won't be watching the people eat, or I could see that might be an inconvenience or something. So if they wouldn't be mindful of, or they wouldn't mind putting in a few more slats to make it a little bit denser, I would like that. But my biggest concern is trash receptacles out in the eating area. Have they're indicated that it's mandatory for trash receptacles? I mean, that's gonna be one of my pet peeves now because of the 99-cent store. They have that, little, break area outside with a table and there's no trash can out there. And people leave their trash and we have wind events here regularly. So if anybody leaves trash on those tables, it's gonna be out in the landscaping, it's gonna be out on the roadway within a matter of minutes. So is there a way to put mandatory trash receptacles out there?
Mr. Chair, we don't have a plan that shows those. If you'd like to add a condition that they show that on their construction documents as part of their plan submittal. we
Yeah,
can
I would
review it
like
at that
that, a
time.
minimum of 2. You know, just because I know there's gonna be a lot of people eating and there's gonna be a lot of trash. And I've eaten at other outdoor facilities like that and trash builds up really quick sometimes. And I'm just concerned that the trash is gonna be all over the place.
Yeah, I think we'd be fine with if you want to put a minimum on and just say to the satisfaction of the planning director.
All right, that sounds good to me. Anybody opposed to that? Okay, so with that, I will reopen the public hearing. The applicant wants to step up and discuss the trash bin, the enclosed trash can. If it's possible to move it.
The preference is not. We actually did discuss this when we were looking at the site plan with the staff. A couple of things were considered. Some of the big issues is out of Chick-fil-A from the preference standpoint, don't want to put it on the main thoroughfare. Hamner's a busy street. Not sure we really wanted that to be seen as passengers through the city are looking at this trash enclosure over a building. We did, we actually had it in another area. We had added a lot more vegetation, a lot more trees along Hamner to screen the parking lot and the drive-through. And so we also moved it away. I think some of the concern was just from a visibility standpoint for cars, we had moved it southward so that there was a better triangular vision for cars turning right. So lastly, by moving it, it would also impact the amount of parking stalls. So was considered, but preference did not change it. That's right. Well, again, we also don't want an next to our patio. Putting it over by the patio also has
Yeah, that's,
odor potential. So again, it was considered, this is the optimal spot for it.
okay, thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I may, I think Commissioner Lee's concern is the pedestrian access. And if you're familiar, well, I'm sure we all are, with the Eastville Marketplace, the trash enclosure, you're talking about the one at the southern end of the building. It's a slightly different situation there where you do have people in the parking lot crossing a drive aisle and then cars coming around the back, around the trash enclosure. And that's why we put the signage up and we restart the pedestrian crosswalk. That situation isn't going to happen here. If you're in the parking lot walking toward Chick-fil-A, you're not walking around the blind side of that trash enclosure, so it's not quite the same situation. We did, as the applicant just mentioned, work with Public Works to make sure that the visibility for the vehicles coming in at that driveway was appropriate, so we moved it away from the driveway. But we didn't see the same issue with pedestrian conflicts happening here as at the marketplace, so.
Okay, thank you. I will close public hearing. Public hearing is now closed again for the second time. Do you have any further comments or questions for staff or the applicant? We have a motion on the floor to approve.
Wait, can I just say something real quick about the screening?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. Because it is pretty close. I do agree with it being open, like Commissioner Charleston said, and not being so closed, but the drive-through is right there. So if there was something even on the other side, even if it was just trees, I think that would be fine. But what if it was just more slats right at this level, right where you're sitting, and then open up at the top, so that it was.
Yes, I agree with that.
Okay, and then going back to this trash can thing, What if it was just moved to the middle of the parking lot here? Or, I see it over there in the Chino Hills where Sprouts is at Chino Hills, and they just have the trash can in the middle there, so it doesn't limit any visibility anywhere. So you wouldn't be able to see it from Hamner, and then you couldn't see it. It wouldn't limit any visibility inside the project here. I'm just thinking people are coming out of this drive-through here, and then they're gonna have to turn around here, go around to get back into traffic. Anyway, just looking at another option, but it does seem like an odd spot for the trash.
Okay. Any discussion, any comment? Okay, let's go back. We have, a motion on the floor here. Is that just for a major development review? It's for a major development review approval?
I think in the motion, we need to add some clarification regarding the issues that have been raised.
Is that with the, changes, the slats and the trash cans?
Well, Mr. Chair, if I may, my notes show that you'd like the slats to go perhaps a more solid screening halfway up to provide, but not all the way up to the top of the roof. And we wanted to add a condition about trash receptacles to be shown on their construction plans, minimum of 2, to the satisfaction of the city planner.
Okay.
I wouldn't even say necessarily halfway up. I think we need to figure out what height are you at when you're sitting. and
Well,
not
basically,
so
like,
bad if it's
what?
half or if
Like
it's
as high
a
as that guy in the white
So
t-shirt.
you can see it right there. So they're sitting about halfway up.
Is it
Looks
about
like,
half?
you can see, looks like we want to maybe
Have to be solid.
no, just, more closely,
Right. So that
spaced
you don't-
slats.
Yeah, feel so close to it.
Not solid, but closer spaced slats.
Yeah, so like, just make the bottom portion to be more narrow spacing and then the top to have much open spacing, so
Yeah.
still have spacing at the bottom.
So it'd be still similar like it is, but just a little denser.
Yes,
look.
horizontal slats.
Yeah.
Okay. I think.
And do you have any problem?
And then we still need direction in the motion on whether or not the trash enclosure is going to be relocated or not.
Okay,
So,
Commissioner Lee.
so let's, at least, so I'll be okay with staff recommendation, but at least I want staff to relook at it, to see if there are, better options when we're thinking about pedestrian crossings, so, in light of what we have with Eastville Marketplace, I think at least take a look at it again, and I'll be okay with that.
I agree with that. That's a good recommendation.
Are you asking to take a look at this particular application
project or future?
or for future?
No, no,
projects?
for this project, at least just take a look at it again, just analyze it again. For pedestrian access purposes.
And then go forward.
Go forward
Based on
with
the satisfaction of the planning director?
Yes.
And I would say in all of the additional conditions would be to the satisfaction of the planning director, just so we're clear. Is that correct?
Correct. Do you
Yeah.
agree with that for your motion?
Yes.
Okay, is that sufficient?
I think that's sufficient, yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Charleston?
Aye.
Commissioner Hovey?
Aye.
Commissioner Laney?
Aye.
Vice Chair Lee?
Aye.
Chair Oblea?
Aye. Now, do we have a motion
Mo-
for
mo-
the CUP for the drive-through? We need a motion.
Make a motion for the CUP.
Second.
I'm sorry, who made the first? Commissioner Charleston?
Aye.
Commissioner Hovey?
Aye.
Commissioner Laney?
Aye.
Vice Chair Lee?
Aye.
Chair Oblea?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Very good. Congratulations. Okay.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, we need a motion and a vote on the, CUP for the drive-through operation.
Yeah, we did.
I'm sorry. Okay, I'm just making sure.
We work
Just
fast in
making sure.
this town. We move quick. Okay. Can we proceed? Okay, let's go. Thank you very much. Congratulations. Look forward to eating there. Item 7.3, amendment to the Eastvale zoning code regarding the keeping of bees in residential and agricultural zones. We have a presentation.
Yes, we do, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much. Emily Elliott from your planning department is here to give that presentation. We appreciate the work that Liz already did earlier in the meeting to give you all the background on bees. So we're going to focus this presentation a little bit on what our recommendations are. But oh, there you go. I was looking at you over there before. So I'll turn that over to Emily and get into that. Thank you.
Is it on now? Okay, thank you. All right, so let's get started. The City Council has directed the planning staff to study residential beekeeping and bring forward recommendations because residential beekeeping is not a use that's listed in the Eastville Municipal Code as being permitted. And for the sake of simplicity, the staff report uses the following terms. A bee means any stage of the common domestic honeybee. Residential beekeeping means the keeping or maintenance of bees for non-commercial use ancillary to the primary residential use. And a bee box means a structure for the housing of bees. As Ms. Savage relayed to us earlier this evening, bees are important to natural habitats, to commercial agriculture, and to residential landscapes, pollinating plants to help create the attractive landscapes that are part of Eastvale's image. The state of California recognizes the importance of bees, but leaves the regulations up to the local jurisdictions. In researching the topic, we learned a few things. Bees take up relatively little space. And for being such a small creature, they can travel pretty far, up to 5 miles. And also that bees tend to ignore the vegetation within 50 feet of their bee box. To further illustrate the distance that a bee can travel, this slide shows you a 2-mile radius over the city of Eastvale, which could be a typical distance that a bee would travel. And it's important to note how spacing regulations, like we might see in some municipalities, doesn't address the natural tendencies and habits of bees to disperse widely across large areas. In reviewing the regulations of other jurisdictions in Riverside and Orange counties, we learned beekeeping is treated in a variety of regulatory styles, and that some of these regulatory styles are not congruent with the realities of beekeeping or bee behavior. And finally, density and population are not necessarily an indication of where beekeeping might occur. Beekeeping in residential areas can be found in densely populated communities, while also being prohibited in some rural jurisdictions. Based on the research conducted by staff, the following recommendations on this slide are presented to the Planning Commission for your consideration. It is to allow residential beekeeping, to require a notice and a permit, and to promote best management practices and provide simple and clear standards. The standards that would be recommended for inclusion within the zoning ordinance would be that each residential lot can have up to 2 bee boxes, that the boxes not exceed 4 feet in height, and that they are located in a rear yard and secured from unauthorized access. The proposed ordinance amendment would create a permit process that creates a registry noting the locations of hives within the city, gives a notice to adjacent neighbors, and allows those neighbors to inform the city of any life-threatening bee allergies before the permit is issued. With that, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission recommend approval of the zoning amendment to the city council. However, the planning commission does have a number of options that are shown on the slide. And that would conclude my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. And then I spoke to the Orange County Beekeepers Association, stuck it out, and they're here to answer any technical bee questions you might have.
Thank you. Then at this time, I will open public hearing. Our public hearing is now open. Do we have any cards for this project?
I'll take over as temporary clerk for a moment here. Yes, we do. We have a speaker slip. Mr. George Kamal is here.
Welcome.
What you buy in the stores has already been processed. It's already been filtered. All kinds of things have been done with it. Raw, organic, unfiltered honey is what I'm talking about. When you process honey, just as you process any other foods, a lot of things are lost within it. So that's why, and in order to get your hands on raw, organic, unfiltered honey and all that, it's very expensive. A small jar like you have sitting there like that, it costs you about $20 or more. Another bigger jar is about $50, $100, and it's harder to find because where are you going to find people that don't process it, that are, you know, other than manufacturers? Aside from that, what I'll try, if anybody here or anybody wants to see what it's like and understand of what it's like, you're welcome to come to my house here in Eastville. I left my address, my phone number. You can come see for yourself. I have extra equipment for you to put on and see if you're worried about it. But it is beneficial for us to do it as backyard beekeepers because we're able to maintain the hives and everything else. One thing I will bring up that I saw in the ordinance is I'm saying the recommendation of 4 feet high or 2 hives. I would recommend probably a little bit more only because by recommending such little, it actually increases the chances of swarming within the neighborhood. And then if I give a little time, I can explain why, just so you can understand. I don't know if that's okay, but only 2 hives. You need to do hive manipulation in order to keep your hive from swarming. What happens is when they grow, they run out of room. They decide we need to find a new home. So the queen and up to about 60 to 70% of the bees leave with her and take off. And a few bees are left to try to restart a colony. Now, a hive isn't particularly dangerous for people to know, but it is scary. When they leave and they swarm, they fill up on honey and everything else they need so that they can be prepared for their time to look for a new home. So they're not looking to sting. They sting in the area to protect their hive and protect the eggs that are in there and the queen. So they're not particularly dangerous, but it is scary to people. So that's going to create more complaints because there's higher chances that we're going to have swarms. So I would recommend at least 4 hives per person because it gives you time to manipulate your hive. And what I mean by that is you have to downsize your hives by removing some of the frames that have all the bees, all the eggs, all the larvae, and move them to a new one. So now you put empty frames where it gives us more room to work. And those frames that were taken are placed somewhere else where it's a lot more room. Now, also as far as height, there shouldn't be a big concern for height because the two bottom boxes is usually where the bees are being made. Anything above that is honey stores only. So usually a good responsible beekeeper will have one honey store for the bees. So if they need extra honey for themselves when they go hungry or winter comes, and then at least one box for, somebody like me to be able to harvest honey for myself. And so the reason the height also shouldn't be worried is because you have to understand that the entrance and exit for the beehive is all the way at the bottom. If you can see in this box here, you see there's an opening here at the bottom, and you can read it. Oh, I'm sorry. But with this box here and this opening here, this is where they come in and out. And that's a huge opening, so there's actually an entrance reducer that you put in there. So if you look at my hive, there's an entrance this big in the entire hive, and it's at the bottom. They come in and out, and that's it. If it's this high, they're not going to come out from anywhere here. They have to go all the way to the bottom and come out. So they're not going to come out from the top. So the height shouldn't be a really particular thing to be worried about. So that's the only thing I would recommend is we should probably allow, I would say, at least 4 for allowing to prevent swarming and not really be concerned with the height because, like I said, they're going to be coming in and out from the bottom of the hive, not from anywhere else. As if you see a feral hive in the wild, they're going to be coming out from everywhere. But this we're able to control because we can control the size of their entrance. And the reason we don't want a whole big entrance is because bees are thieves, they're robbers. If you don't have enough bees to protect it, other bees will come and they'll come in and steal a bunch of the honey and try to leave. And so the way to prevent that is from reducing the entrance. So it gives them a little bit, that's why I say I welcome anybody that would like to come. You're welcome to come to my house, and you'll see that it's really not a whole thing to worry about. The biggest concerns that people have, and I've found because I've talked to people on Facebook with the Eastvale Community Garden Group and the Eastvale Garden Group, and a lot of the people to help educate the community, people's concerns, and they're misunderstanding the difference between Africanized honeybees and European honeybees, which is what backyard beekeepers keep, are European honeybees, which have different characteristics. The things they're concerned about noises. We live in an area where we have gardeners, schools, traffic, all that noises and things like that, construction, those are characteristics of an Africanized honeybee, where they hear these noises and it disrupts them and it upsets them and they want to sting because it become protective. That's not something that's consistent with European honeybees, which in my case are Italian, which is very common to keep Italian bees. I have surround sound in my backyard. I have a speaker right by my hive. I play music, doesn't bother them. I have gardeners that come to my backyard and do maintenance when they mow the lawn, and it's just a few feet from the hive. None of my gardener has never been stung ever by any of my bees. And so those are things, like I say, are misunderstandings because of the lack of education, which I don't blame people in the community because most people see things on TV, movies, and they believe this is what a bee is. This is the way they are. They don't understand that European bees, like the Italian bee, they don't have those characteristics like you see on TV with the Africanized honeybees with the aggressiveness and everything else. They're not as protective. They're more concerned of just about reproducing. So the bees you see out are just looking to collect honey and nectar. That's it. They go back and forth. Bees don't want to sting anybody. If they sting you, they die. They don't want to die. So they only do that at the very last cause. And so they don't have that level of aggressiveness. Also, the benefit to this hive, or as explained, the small entrance, that's all they need for guard bees is to just guard that one entrance. So guard bees are usually the ones that are out protecting the hive. So it's that, wild hives, they have way more to protect because it's a little bit more open. With the backyard beekeeper, there's only a few guards that have to protect a very small entrance. So you don't have these bees that are protecting the whole hive and being aggressive. The ones that are coming in and out are just workers that are only interested in going to collect honey and pollen. That's all. I could sit here and talk all day about the things I've learned in the last 10 months, but I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I don't know if anybody has any questions. Ask somebody that have questions for me, but I'll be happy to answer any questions that I can.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Any other cards?
No, sir, we don't have any more cards.
Then at this time, we will close public hearing. Public hearing is now closed. Do you have any comments by the commission? Commissioner Lee?
Just a quick question. So the number of bee boxes have been raised. So did staff think, is there a particular reason why we came up with 2?
I think most of the photos that we saw showed 2 hives, so we thought that was enough. I don't know, Liz.
A lot of people have the misconception that if you have 2 hives, you can only have a quarter acre, and or you can only have more than 2 hives if you have a half acre lot. So their old rule of thumb is that how many hives per what size of lot. Well, from just what you've heard tonight, the bees do not stay in that lot. They're not confined, and they don't forage usually anything within 50 feet of one hive. So, like I live on a 1/4 acre, I have 7 hives in my backyard. I have a dog, I have 3 cats, 2 kids still live at home, we have a pool and jacuzzi. We don't have any issues. I manage my hives. I take care of my hives. We use common sense. The best management practices that the city has is a guideline. You don't work your bees on the weekends. When the kids are all out playing, you don't work them. When the kids are home from school, you don't, go out and work them when the long guys next door. Bees have bad days too, just like we do. They don't like the cold weather. They don't like the wind, the rain, the cloudy. They like nice, bright, sunny days. That's when they work. So, like the best management practices that the city has with this, it gives, outlines and guidelines. But beginning beekeepers start usually with 2, only because if one absconds or if one dies or something happens, you still have something else to work with. But we usually say 3 or more, because then that way you can manipulate them. If you have a very weak hive or 2 weak hives and you're trying to get them stronger, you need to baby them. They're just like small animals. You need to baby them and caretake for them. So as a beginning beekeeper, yes, no less than 2. But like I said, as you get experience and you're learning to keep the bees and how to maintain and manipulate them, 2 is not really a realistic number, because like George was saying, when they grow to that certain point, when those 2 brood boxes are getting tight, if you don't take care of them, they're going to swarm. And the next thing you're going to hear is get calls from your neighbors, or I've got bees all in my backyard, or and they don't know where they're coming from, and they're freaking out. And it's a lot of undue tension on your neighbors. So I would say a minimum of 3, just so that you can manipulate and play with them, because 50% of all beekeepers lose their bees in less than a year. Their first bees.
I'll jump in from here. Thank you so much, Liz, for that background. So
Okay, but just to, for formality, I'm gonna open the public hearing and then close it again.
Okay, all right.
Okay,
So
she's on a roll and I don't wanna stop her, I'm sorry.
Staff felt it necessary to have some kind of limitation, although we're not master beekeepers, and so we're very grateful for the input that we have from Liz and the OC Beekeepers Association. But we wanted to give our Community Enhancement Division some kind of tangible text within the code, so they could go to a property and easily identify whether this property is complying with the beekeeping ordinance or not. And setting a number of hives seemed like something that was rational and would make sense. But staff is certainly open to the number of hives, coming from the experts. So if 4 hives is what's necessary to keep healthy hives and to prevent swarming, then certainly we would be in agreement with that.
If we go back to the slide where we're talking about what really the compliance of what we're trying to hold them to,
The other thing I'll point out on this slide, the photo shows some fencing that's around. That's not something that would be required in the code, but it is included in the best management practices. And that a good beekeeper would want to put some kind of barrier to direct the bees in the flight pattern that's appropriate for them. So that's not a requirement, but again, it's just the best management practice. But our code would require that the bees are within a secure rear yard.
Go ahead, Commissioner Johnson.
what you brought back up, Gina, my question is, if we were to take the average size of the boxes that most beekeepers use, if there is an average size. But, I've seen commercial bee guys, I've had 1,200 acres, where they bring 200 boxes out. And the biggest issue we always had with them was they didn't bring water. So if you have water within a certain distance, they come by the hundreds of thousands to get your water. And if you have people working there, it's a real issue. This is on such a small scale, but I want to wanna make sure that if we're saying we need 3 boxes, if you're explaining that we need 4 boxes, you know, is 4 feet enough? Should it be 5 feet? You know, if the top 2 boxes are used where the honey's stored, and the bottom 2 boxes are where the babies, I mean, I just think if we're gonna attack this, we need to use a little bit of expertise at the same time and not get stuck in, that's gonna be it, if that's gonna restrict people, so.
I have a
Well,
question.
yes, but-
I have a question though, for staff. Okay, now when we're talking about a box, 4 boxes, we, just one of those? Or a stack of 4 boxes makes 1 eye? So that's
Yeah.
4 of those stacks.
Think of it as an apartment building that could be 2 or 3 or 4 stories tall. So if that thing had several more layers stacked up, it would still be, in our terms, one box.
1 box, okay.
Yes.
So 4 of those stacks.
4
is
of those,
maximum in
yeah,
one
like,
box.
think of it like
Yeah, because 2 are the.
either 2 apartment buildings or 4 apartment
nurseries
buildings.
And the top 2 are the storage areas for the
Yeah.
warehouse for the honey. Okay.
See, that makes that much more explainable if you say those 4 boxes connected are actually 1 box.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes this make much more sense.
Yeah, I think we'll include, I think, an illustration in the actual ordinance that we take forward, so it's very
I
clear.
wanna make sure that the applicant understands those 4 boxes in 1 box.
Yeah,
So that we're not scaring them away saying, well, I do, without you.
yeah. And to tag on to what Emily was saying about the putting a number in, it makes it enforceable. We also wanted to make sure that we're limiting it to hobby beekeeping. So you don't want to have 200 bee boxes.
Right.
We don't want commercial beekeeping in our neighborhoods. We want hobby beekeeping, so that's another reason to put a number in there.
So with that,
Commissioner Lee?
yeah, so with that said, is 4 feet in height enough? I mean, I'm thinking it should be higher, but.
There shouldn't be a height limit because your height is going to fluctuate from year to year. Somebody really isn't gonna get to 4 height even if they've been beekeeping for quite a while. Because it takes at least 1 year for the bees to even make enough honey for you to harvest. So, you know,
Okay, but I think for staff and for our Mario over there was gonna have to enforce this, we probably would need some kind of maximum height restriction.
there is no maximum height when it comes to beekeeping because it's not
Excuse me, I would take a minute, I want to open public hearing. Public hearing is now open. Want to step to the mic, please?
See, my city, everybody's different. With beekeeping, there is not a maximum height, okay? Most people will not keep it that high. And this is 1 box, so this is how tall it would be with 2 baby boxes, 2 boxes of bees. When you put on honeysuckle, you would put on another bee box like this, and another like this. Okay, and that's what I did. The one picture that I showed on my slide was 3 deep boxes. That third one on top was all honey. But logically, a beekeeper's not gonna keep it that high unless he's got time out in the countryside. That he's not gonna be visiting, for a while, because the bees will keep building up. Bees build up and down, they don't go. That's why when you see beehives, they're stacked up. Because bees always come in from the bottom. That's their intensive honey. They drop off the pollen in the bottom 2 boxes, and all the honey goes in the top. So, a height,
You understand what we're trying
Right.
to drive through here, because if somebody's inexperienced and all of a sudden they want 5 boxes and thinking they're gonna conquer the world in the first year, even though they might not be successful, we don't want bee boxes sticking over the
well,
walls.
one thing, if you put on 5 boxes, you're gonna lose your hive.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I
You need to,
understand.
you need to, you do need
So
to,
if you say, well, it's not enough, it's at 5, but if you say it's 7,
Okay, so
nobody wants it
yeah.
on the top
so
of the
what
wall.
is your barrier wall?
Can I clarify something? I think maybe if we, instead of doing a measurement maximum, a stacking maximum, a box, four stack high is maximum. Would that be something that makes sense, like the 4 boxes high and
Yeah.
no more
That
for
would be,
each box?
Yeah, that's,
Yeah, well, see, then, that's what I'm saying, we're not saying a height, 4 feet, 5 feet, we're saying 4 boxes, or 4 stack high is
Are
maximum.
we talking about 4 stacks high, or are we talking about 4?
No, 4 stack, I don't, and the terminology I'm not familiar with, but would that make sense to
well,
say
Liz-
4
Eric.
stack?
Let me ask you a question. On your side, on your walls, around the perimeter of your backyard, what's the maximum height?
it's typically 6
6
feet
feet.
from the highest side, so I was gonna say, well, actually, it should probably be 5. Yeah.
I think,
I guess, a question the commission might want to consider is putting up a 5-foot height limit going to prevent somebody from doing residential beekeeping?
would that prevent somebody?
It could, because if they have their hive sitting on sand, my hive is this wrought iron sand, but I also have it sitting on cinder block.
But they don't need to have it stacked, sitting on something even higher, if they need to,
It depends on your environment.
so then,
A lot of variables, that's why one of my slides said.
Well,
to prevent pests. If you have it on the ground, you're gonna get pests. You'll get ants, you can even get mice, you hurt mice, you'll get pests if you put it too low.
Raccoons,
all right.
those are critters that you.
So let's try and, if I may, let's try and, unfortunately, I mean, not to say unfortunately, but, you know, planning is regulatory, that's the bad thing about it, right? But we also can be creative and so why don't we set some and then leave, maybe some discretion, to the planning director, should there be a need to modify it, with 1 or 2 box or with like a 10% variance if it needs to go, you know, a few feet higher or lower, and then anything outside of that, we need to come back to the commission or do something like that, because we have to regulate for the majority, for those that are experienced, such as yourself, and those that are not, kind of come up with a happy medium.
There has been, an ordinance anywhere that has regulated. I'm not saying it's good or bad,
yeah, we just don't want them sticking out above the walls.
Well, yeah, and in Eastvale, the size of our lots, I mean, so, you know, Orange County is a little different than what's happening here in our community, so it might behoove our residents and our planning commission to set that for our community, and if it's something that, you know, does prohibit or we get complaints about it, then we can always revisit.
yeah, I think 5 is a lot better than 4. If you stack a couple of these boxes up, you're already at. You know, I know you have millions to put them in, so 5 is good. That's what we're saying, the stands are because of pests. I mean, if there's not any pests, we can put them right on the ground, so not the whole thing is boxes. I mean, everything is manageable, so it's the creativeness, you know, so we all know, but yeah, I think 5 feet, you know, if you guys can move a height, I think 5 feet is good. Because depending on where you set it in your backyard, unless your neighbors are actually looking over your backyard, they're never gonna see it.
I would like to say something. I'm looking, well, first of all, before I say something, I would like to say that I'm all about bees. And I love bees, but I don't know much about them. But thank you for the presentations, and they've been very educational. I'm going to play devil's advocate. So I'm looking at it from a code enforcement perspective. I know that if we implement a height requirement, I can see some folks complaining that they'll say something to, well, I don't want to see the beehive all day. It's affecting my quality of life, things like that. These are some of the complaints that we get. Also, we have to take in mind that some property elevations are higher than others, some sit lower. So if there's like a 3-foot requirement, but that property sits higher than the other one, and things like that. So that can make a difference. So I think we should maybe think about as far as the height requirement, but also keep in mind as well that some of you have commented that the beehives need to be above the ground, a certain feet, so that way any critters or rodents don't get in there. So we kind of have to meet halfway and understand the city's perspective as far as like the enforcement action, but we also take your considerations as far as we want you, the beehives, to be successful as well. So we just kind of have to meet halfway, if you may, and find some kind of medium and happy medium.
Well, do you remember this slide that I showed you with the mobile home I do understand that, but on the other turn, my bees are within my yard, within my code, within the permit. And he can see from his yard because he's higher than me, then he can provide something.
Well,
Right.
but we don't,
And-
so our building code, there is a certain design guidelines in Eastville, and so I don't think the lattice is, and we don't want to encourage that, that's why we're thinking about the height. Mm-hmm, understood.
Right.
Code enforcement, most of the issues have been with a nuisance where, we are the bee boxes in the backyard and we're banned. That's been most of our issues.
Okay,
So
I
one-
think we've heard enough.
To resolve that problem, because I think I can address it probably now.
If you want to step up to the mic, real quick, because I think we've,
Real quick, the suggestion I would make
beat
to,
this dog.
yeah, I'll make it quick, just to resolve that situation, because I, as a resident, I understand completely about what it is. May I suggest that maybe in the guidelines is put that if the hive is going to be placed near a adjoining wall that divides residences, that maybe at that, because I do understand in our code, there is a limit on the heights of our walls, that maybe we limit it, that would, if the hive is placed against near the wall, that it is not allowed to exceed the height of the wall where it becomes visible to the neighboring yard. And maybe that, because there's also the option, if somebody has it, they could place it against their house or somewhere in the center of their backyard, but if they're gonna place it by the walls, which is next to another neighbor, that it does not exceed to a point where it exceeds the height of the wall. And then it doesn't become a point where you have a neighbor's wall here and a beehive sticking up above. And at that point, you know, we have different sized walls in some of the neighborhoods. So it does resolve that problem that you don't have a hive that's gonna be exceeding the height of the wall to the next door neighbor, and they don't have to worry that the hive's sticking out in their view.
I did have a comment on that. The height requirement, well, not the height requirement, but the height max on the rear yard is 6 feet. So if there's a hive and then we put lattice and it exceeds that, so then I could see an issue with the 6 foot wall already is at the max, and then there's a lattice. So then we would have to go out and enforce that. Hey, your wall is too high. So once again, maybe revisit this. You know, come together. Like I said, I'm all about bees. I love bees. I don't know much about them, but I'm looking at a code enforcement perspective. Residents will complain, and I got it that hey, you know, that bee stung my kid. We can't identify if that bee's from this hive or that hive or just a wild bee. But if we can just you know, as far as beekeepers or hobbyists, understand the code enforcement perspective is how we look at things, the complaints that we may get in the future. We want this ordinance to work for everybody, and we just want to, you know, you to keep that in mind as well.
Yes.
Okay, I want to close public hearing. Commissioner?
First off, I want to thank Emily for your expertise on this, I guess, as a staff. I feel like this is a twilight zone. I've been in this meeting before where we've tried to make something out of the very limited knowledge I think that we have. And I don't think it's a very good idea to piecemeal this together in, I think, the fashion that this has come together tonight. So my personal recommendation would be to continue this to allow for staff to have more time to flesh this out.
Okay, is that a motion?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion.
I'd still like to make a comment, please.
Okay, go ahead.
In the packet, there was a list that was provided for other cities and what their recommendations were. And in most of the cities that were listed, it gave like a 500 feet or 300 feet. Now, my house backs up to 5 other residences. And I thought about it. How would I feel if one of those neighbors was keeping bees? And, you know, I have dogs and kids and my limited knowledge of it. And I don't think I would be happy with it. We are in a very tight, small lot community. I think it might be something better in a larger but like my neighbor is literally 5 feet away from me, all around. And I'm not sure that this is maybe the best city for this type of ordinance. And I don't know, but just looking at the other cities and what they have already established, they have established 300 and 500 feet. I know we need bees, I know we do. But I don't think that Eastvale is gonna save the world with the bee pollination. And so I feel like we should revisit it or deny it for Eastvale.
Okay, next commissioners, any other comments? Well, right now, first, go ahead, Commissioner Lee, you have something? We have a motion to continue this to, the next meeting or in a month? You feel they're ready?
I'd say, I'd say to the June meeting, because I understand there's a special meeting at the end of this month.
May
Okay, to the
29th.
meeting in June?
Yeah, it's at the meeting in June.
So we have a motion to continue this to the meeting in June. Do we have a second?
And just to clarify, is the motion to continue and direction to staff to work more with community
further
experts
and-
and come up with a more, I guess, solid recommendation
Right.
or
Yeah,
a fleshed out recommendation?
And I think at a minimum,
ordinance.
based off of Commissioner Hovey's comments, I'd say to maybe look at some more of the communities that have similar densities, similar lot sizes to Eastville. I grew up in Bakersfield. I know how important bees are. I'm surrounded by farmers most of my childhood, so I get how important bees are to the universe. But we also are not a land of acreage.
So I have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Charleston?
Aye.
Commissioner Hovey?
Aye.
Commissioner Laney?
Aye.
Vice Chair Lee?
Aye.
Chair Blair?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
So we'll continue this to the meeting in June. We'll get some more information and be more clear and maybe get some of this information to the commission ahead of time so that we could study some of this stuff too, so be more aware and be more educated on the whole situation. Thank you. Let's go to item 8, Commissioner's business. There's none. Going into agenda, city staff report.
None tonight, sir.
Commissioners' communication. Commissioner Hovey, do you have anything to say? Commissioner Lee?
I would suggest, I think I've made a comment on this one, but taking a look at the WR-COG's work on SB 743, and then kind of compare that with some of the developments that are coming down the pipeline in our city, and see if by June of 2020, we would have to look into VMTs as our CEQA threshold. So, and looking at exactly some of the projects that are in the pipeline and comparing that and applying the SB 743 guidelines, I think that would be helpful to us. So maybe exploring that idea and having some type of workshop for that would be helpful, because our development is going to get impacted and our EIR is going to be suffering because of the 743 requirements. So.
Thank you. Commissioner Charleston, you have anything?
I guess the only thing I would ask staff about is, a couple years ago, we started looking into how are we gonna enforce the different kinds of trucks and trailers that were parking in the residential neighborhood. So we had the ruling where you can't have your boat in the front yard, but then we're finding these businesses that are popping up and parking with their vehicle connected to it, but we've really never heard, we were gonna update the codes to say we could stop that. And they said, well, as long as he's parked there and moves every 3 days, then it's okay. So here's a guy that has a, 12-foot trailer on his truck and parks at his house every day. And then bought another truck and another trailer, and he's taken up both sides of the street, and it's a commercial business. So we were gonna change the ruling to let them know you can't do that to the street like that. But I haven't really seen or heard that we've updated any of that stuff to make it to where our enforcement was more enforceable.
Let me suggest that staff put together a memorandum and give it to the commission about that, because we did have a home that was occurring at, and it was a person that was complaining regularly. They come in every Friday with a date stamp, complain about different things that are going on at this particular residence. And so the way the code actually reads is different than the interpretation or maybe even the practice. And that's probably because it's a new set of eyes. So when I pointed that out, it was very eye-opening about actually what the code does say. So let's go, we'll do that at the next meeting. We'll have a memorandum about it, and then you can direct us to have a workshop and/or change the ordinance as you see fit. But we will put together the memo to just show you exactly what the code says and exactly what the interpretation has been and what it actually, versus what it actually says.
Excellent, thank you.
Sure, we'll do that for you.
No business.
I don't have anything either. So, but good job, you guys. It was an interesting meeting, and you guys handled it well. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.